Josiah Green pushed his mop across the lobby floor of Henderson Financial Tower, same as he had for 22 years, when 4 people in expensive suits walked through the glass doors and asked the receptionist for him by name. Not for maintenance, not for the building manager, for him. The lead attorney, Matthew Hall, carried a leather briefcase that probably cost more than Josiah's car, and when their eyes met, Matthew's face did something Josiah had never seen a white man in a $1,000 suit do. It crumpled with emotion. The receptionist, Amanda Taylor, looked between them like she'd walked into the wrong movie. Behind Matthew stood 3 others, all watching Josiah with expressions that didn't belong on the faces of people who looked like they owned things. One of them was crying. Josiah's supervisor, Christopher Moore, appeared from the back hallway, already irritated that cleaners were being interrupted during work hours, but Matthew turned to him and said 5 words that made Christopher's face go blank. "We're here because of him." Before we go any further, what time is it where you're watching this? Are you at home, on a break, or somewhere else? If this one's already got you curious, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Now let's get into it. Josiah Green had been invisible for so long that being seen felt like a mistake. He stood there in the marble lobby with his mop in one hand and a yellow caution sign in the other, trying to figure out if this was some kind of prank or if he was about to get fired for something he didn't remember doing. The 4 people in suits looked at him like he'd saved their lives, but he'd never seen any of them before. At least, he didn't think he had. Matthew stepped forward first, extending his hand. Josiah noticed the cufflinks, the kind that probably had a brand name he wouldn't recognize. The handshake was firm, but desperate, like Matthew was clinging to something vanishing. "Mr. Green, I don't know if you remember me. I'm Matthew Hall. We met a long time ago." Josiah shook his hand automatically, the way you do when someone's being polite, but you're still confused. His palm was sweaty against Matthew's dry one. He was aware of Christopher watching from the side, of Amanda at the reception desk with her phone angled just right. "I'm sorry, I don't." "You wouldn't," Matthew said quickly. "It was 1998. You worked night shift at Lincoln Elementary School." The name hit Josiah somewhere in his chest. Lincoln Elementary. He hadn't thought about that place in years. He'd worked there for 3 years in the late 90s, cleaning classrooms after hours, mopping floors that never really came clean, emptying trash cans full of broken crayons and failed tests. It was before this job, before the pay got slightly better and the building had heat that actually worked. Lincoln had been in the kind of neighborhood where people didn't make eye contact and sirens were just background noise. "I worked there," Josiah said slowly. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "But I don't remember." "You let us stay after hours," said one of the others, a black woman in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Josiah made in a month. Her voice cracked slightly when she spoke, and she cleared her throat like she was angry at herself for showing emotion. "When we had nowhere else to go." Josiah stared at her, then at the other 2, a younger black man with a wedding ring that caught the lobby lights. A white woman with blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, wearing pearls that were definitely real. All of them watching him like he was supposed to understand, like this moment meant something he couldn't quite grasp. "I let a lot of kids stay late," Josiah said carefully. He glanced at Christopher again. His supervisor had that look on his face, the one that meant someone was about to get written up for something. "The school didn't have heat in the winter half the time. Some of you didn't have good situations at home. I wasn't going to kick you out into the cold." "You did more than that," Matthew said. His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. Josiah could see them trembling slightly at his sides. "You fed us." Something shifted in Josiah's memory. Not a clear picture, but a feeling. There had been kids who stayed late. Always the same group. 4 of them. They'd been in 5th or 6th grade, maybe, though it was hard to tell sometimes with kids who didn't get enough to eat. They looked older and younger at the same time. They'd sit in the library or the cafeteria while he cleaned, doing homework under the fluorescent lights, or sometimes just sitting there in silence because silence was better than whatever waited for them outside. He'd asked them once why they didn't go home. The answers had been vague, the way kids learned to be vague when the truth was too complicated or too dangerous to say out loud. After a couple weeks of seeing them there every night, hungry and trying to hide it, he'd started bringing extra food from home. Nothing fancy. His wife Kendra would pack his dinner, and then she'd pack a little extra. Sandwiches with the crusts cut off because one of the kids didn't like crusts. Apples. Chips. Cookies when they could afford it. He'd leave it on the table in the cafeteria and pretend he'd brought too much, didn't want it to go to waste. That was a long time ago, Josiah said quietly. His throat felt tight. 22 years, Matthew said. And we never forgot. Christopher cleared his throat loudly, the way he did when he wanted everyone to remember he was in charge. Look, I don't know what this is about, but Mr. Green is on the clock. If you want to meet with him, you can schedule something after his shift ends at 11. Matthew turned to look at Christopher, and something happened to his face. The emotion drained out of it and was replaced by something harder, something that belonged in courtrooms and boardrooms. We're not here to take up his work time. We're here to make sure he doesn't have to work at all, if he doesn't want to. The lobby went very quiet. Josiah could hear the hum of the air conditioning, the distant ding of the elevator, his own heartbeat in his ears. His grip tightened on the mop handle until his knuckles went pale. "What are you talking about?" he asked. The black woman in the charcoal suit stepped forward. "My name is Malaya Hayes. I'm a senior partner at Hayes & Whitmore. This is Matthew Hall, Chief Legal Counsel at Hall Equity Group." She gestured to the others. "That's Tyrese Perry. He's a cardiovascular surgeon at Johns Hopkins. And that's Soraya Jenkins. She's CEO of Jenkins Technologies." She paused, and when she spoke again her voice was softer, but somehow more intense. "We were those kids in the library. The ones you fed." Josiah looked at each of them again, trying to see the children he'd known in these polished, successful strangers. Malaya had been the quiet one, he remembered now. Always reading, always trying to disappear into the pages of whatever book she'd found. Tyrese had been the one who asked questions, who wanted to know how everything worked. Soraya had been angry. He remembered that clearly, angry in the way kids get when they're scared and don't know how to say it. And Matthew had been the one who tried to take care of the others, even though he was just as hungry, just as lost. "You were just kids," Josiah said. He didn't know what else to say. "We were," Malaya said. "And you were the only adult who saw us." Christopher made a noise that might have been a laugh or a cough. "This is very touching, but like I said, Mr. Green has work to do. We have protocols here. You can't just walk into a building and—" "We own this building," Soraya said. She didn't raise her voice, but she didn't have to. Jenkins Technologies owns 40% of Henderson Financial Tower. Hayes & Whitmore has the legal firm on the 18th floor. Dr. Perry sits on the board of the medical group on 12. And Matthew's equity group handles the majority of investments for the companies housed here. She looked at Christopher with an expression that could freeze water. "So when we walk into this building and ask to speak with someone, protocol is whatever we say it is." Christopher's face went through several colors. Amanda had definitely recorded that part. "I don't understand," Josiah said. His voice came out smaller than he meant it to. "Why are you here? Why now?" Matthew reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. Not a thin one. It was stuffed with papers, with what looked like photographs and documents. "Can we sit down somewhere? This is going to take a while to explain." Christopher started to say something about break rooms and employee areas, but Matthew just looked at him, and Christopher's mouth clicked shut. They ended up in one of the conference rooms on the ground floor, the fancy ones that building management rented out to companies for meetings. Josiah had cleaned this room 1,000 times, but he'd never sat in one of the leather chairs. They were more comfortable than he'd expected. The four of them sat across from him. Matthew opened the folder and spread out its contents on the glossy table. There were photographs, old ones, the kind printed on that thick paper from the 90s. Josiah saw himself, younger, thinner, with more hair and fewer scars. He was in the Lincoln Elementary cafeteria, and there were 4 kids sitting at a table nearby. "Where did you get these?" Josiah asked. "The school kept them," Tyrese said. He had a gentle voice, the kind doctors probably practiced. "When they finally demolished Lincoln 5 years ago, one of the administrators found boxes of old photos in the basement. She posted some of them on a Facebook group for alumni. That's how we found each other again." Soraya pointed to one of the photos. "We'd lost touch over the years. Life happened. We went to different high schools, different colleges. But when we saw these photos, we all remembered. We remembered you. We made a pact that night," Malaya said. "The night we saw the photos. We were going to find you and thank you properly." Josiah looked at the photos. He looked young in them, young and tired, wearing the same navy blue uniform he still wore now, just a different building's name stitched on the pocket. "You didn't have to do this. I was just doing what anyone would do." "That's not true," Matthew said flatly. "Most people didn't do anything. Most people walked past us. Teachers, administrators, other parents. They saw us and they looked away because it was easier. You didn't. I just gave you some food, Josiah said. I let you sit inside where it was warm. You gave us more than that, Tyrese said. You gave us a place where we mattered, where someone noticed if we showed up or not. Do you know how rare that is for kids like we were? Josiah didn't know what to say to that. He looked at his hands, at the calluses and the scars from years of cleaning and lifting and fixing things that broke in buildings full of people who never learned his name. We want to do something for you, Malaya said. We've been planning this for 5 years. We wanted to wait until we had everything in place, until we could do it right. Matthew pulled out another set of papers. These ones looked official, with law firm letterhead and signatures. We've set up a trust. All 4 of us contributed. It's not a gift, it's not charity. It's payment for what you did for us. I didn't do anything that needs payment, Josiah said. His voice came out rougher than he meant it to. You kept us alive, Zariah said simply. Without you, I don't know if I'd be here. My home situation was bad. Really bad. Those hours after school, in that cafeteria with you, were the only time I felt safe. The only time I ate real food. You think that doesn't deserve something? Josiah felt something burning behind his eyes. He blinked hard. How bad was it? Your situations? They looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, Matthew spoke. My dad was in prison. My mom worked 3 jobs and still couldn't keep the lights on half the time. I was taking care of my little brother, trying to make sure he ate before I did. The school was the only place we had heat and light and quiet. My mom was an addict, Tyrese said. His voice was clinical, like he was reading a chart. She'd disappear for days. I was staying with my grandmother, but she was sick, could barely take care of herself. I'd go to school because it was the only place I knew I'd eat. Foster care, Malaya said, bouncing between houses. Some were okay, some weren't. The school was the only constant. And you were there every night, like clockwork. I knew if I could just get to the school, you'd be there. Zariah's jaw was tight. My stepdad. I'll leave it at that. The room was very quiet. Josiah could hear the air conditioning vent above them, the muffled sound of someone walking past in the hallway outside. I'm sorry, he said. It felt inadequate. Don't be sorry, Matthew said. Be proud. You saved 4 kids who had no reason to think anyone gave a damn about them. You showed up every single night. You brought food even though you probably couldn't afford it. You never asked us questions that would have gotten us taken away or gotten you in trouble. You just let us be there, and you made sure we were safe and fed. My wife did the food, Josiah said. Kendra. She's the one who packed extra. Then we'll thank her too, Malaya said. Is she here in the city? She passed, Josiah said. The word still felt wrong in his mouth, even though it had been 3 years. Cancer. The 4 of them went very still. Zariah reached across the table and put her hand over his. Her nails were manicured, painted a deep red. Her hand was warm. I'm so sorry, she said. She would have liked knowing you all made it, Josiah said. She used to ask me about you, about the kids I talked about from Lincoln. She'd want to know if you were okay. We're okay because of you both, Tyrese said. Matthew pushed the papers closer to Josiah. This is the trust. It's worth $2.4 million. It's set up to pay you monthly for the rest of your life, with the principal going to your children or whoever you designate when you pass. The payments are structured, so you'll never have to work again if you don't want to. You can retire today. Josiah stared at the papers. The numbers on them didn't look real. I can't accept this. You can, Malaya said. And you will. We're not asking. We had our lawyers structure it so it's irrevocable. The money is yours whether you like it or not. That's not fair, Josiah said. I didn't do anything to earn that kind of money. You saved our lives, Zariah said. Her voice had an edge to it now, the CEO voice. Each of us has calculated what we would have lost if you hadn't been there. Matthew ran the numbers. Statistically, kids in our situations don't make it out. Most of us should be dead or in prison or stuck in cycles we'd never escape. But we're not. We're successful. We're alive. We have families and careers and futures. And it started with you. We're not paying you for sandwiches, Tyrese added. We're paying you for giving us a reason to survive until we could get out. That's priceless, but we did our best to put a number on it. Josiah's hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against the table. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take it, Matthew said. Say you'll stop mopping floors for $12 an hour in a building where people don't even learn your name. Say you'll go home today and never come back unless you want to. What will I do? Josiah asked. It was a stupid question, but it was the only one he could think of. Whatever you want, Malaya said. Travel. Rest. Spend time with your family. We don't care. We just want you to stop killing yourself for people who don't appreciate you. There was a knock on the conference room door. Christopher's face appeared in the window, looking irritated and worried at the same time. Matthew made a gesture, and Christopher disappeared. He's going to fire me for this, Josiah said. He's going to try, Zariah said. And then we're going to explain to him very clearly what happens if he does. We have a lot of influence in this building. Enough to make his life very difficult. I don't want anyone getting in trouble, Josiah said. Too late, Tyrese said, but he was smiling. We've been planning this for years. We knew there might be pushback. We're prepared. Matthew pulled out a pen and pointed to a line on one of the papers. All you have to do is sign. That's it. Sign and the money is yours. We've already handled everything else. Taxes, legal structure, investment management. You just have to accept it. Josiah looked at the pen, at the paper, at the four faces watching him with expressions he still couldn't quite read. Hope, maybe. Or something like it. Why now? He asked again. Why wait 22 years? Because we wanted to do it right, Malaya said. We wanted to be successful enough that this gift would be meaningful, that it would change your life the way you changed ours. If we'd tried to do this 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had the resources. 5 years ago maybe, but we wanted more. We wanted to make sure you'd never have to worry about money again. We also wanted to find you, Matthew added. You'd moved, changed jobs. It took us 3 years just to track you down. How did you find me? Josiah asked. Private investigator, Zariah said. Cost a fortune but worth every penny. When we finally found you here, working nights again, barely making ends meet. She trailed off, shook her head. It wasn't right. It's still not right. Josiah picked up the pen. It was heavy, the expensive kind. He looked at the signature line, at his name printed in neat typescript below it. Josiah Green. He'd signed his name on time cards and employment papers and his wife's death certificate. This felt different. What if I don't deserve this? He asked quietly. You do, all four of them said at once. He signed. The rest of the afternoon unfolded in fragments. Matthew made phone calls. Malaya explained the trust structure in language Josiah didn't fully understand, but nodded along to anyway. Tyrese asked about his health, whether he had insurance, whether he'd been to a doctor recently. Zariah handled Christopher, who appeared twice more and left both times looking pale and confused. You're free to go, she told Josiah around 4 in the afternoon. Your supervisor has been informed that you're resigning effective immediately. We've also made sure you'll receive your full benefits, including accrued vacation time. I was going to give 2 weeks' notice, Josiah said. You don't owe them 2 weeks, Malaya said. You've given them 22 years. They walked him out through the lobby. Amanda, the receptionist, stared openly now, not even pretending to be subtle about it. A few other employees had gathered, watching from a distance. Josiah realized he was still wearing his uniform, still had his name badge clipped to his pocket. He took it off. The clip left a small hole in the fabric. What now? He asked when they reached the doors. Now you go home, Matthew said. The first payment will hit your account in 3 days. We've set up direct deposit. After that, you'll get a monthly payment on the 1st of every month. If you have any questions or problems, you have our contact information. Can I see you again? Josiah asked. I mean, not about the money, just to talk. I'd like to know how you all got from there to here. They smiled at that, real smiles that made them look younger. We'd like that, Tyrese said. How about dinner next week? Our treat. We can tell you the whole story. I'll cook, Josiah offered. You've given me enough. Let me feed you one more time. Something passed between them at that, some emotion Josiah couldn't name. Malaya hugged him first, quick and hard. Then the others. Matthew was last, and when he pulled back his eyes were wet. Thank you, he said. For everything. Thank you, Josiah said back. He drove home in his old Toyota, the one with the check engine light that had been on for 6 months. The streets looked the same but different somehow. He kept thinking about the number on the papers. $2.4 million. It didn't feel real. None of this felt real. Kendra would have known what to say. She'd always known what to say. He missed her so much in that moment it was hard to breathe. He pulled into the driveway of the small house they'd bought 30 years ago. The paint was peeling. The roof needed work. The yard was overgrown because he was too tired after work to deal with it most days. He could fix all of that now. He could fix everything. His daughter's car was in the driveway. Ayana was visiting, probably checking on him like she did every few days. She worried about him living alone. He walked in through the front door and found her in the kitchen, putting groceries away. "Hey Dad," she said without turning around. "You're home early. Everything okay?" "I quit my job," Josiah said. Ayanna turned around fast enough to knock over a bag of apples. "What? Why? Did something happen? Are you okay?" "I'm fine," he said. "Better than fine. Sit down. I need to tell you something." He told her everything. The 4 people in suits. Lincoln Elementary. The trust. The money. Ayanna listened without interrupting, her eyes getting wider with every sentence. When he finished, she just stared at him. "Are you serious?" she finally asked. "I have the papers in the car." She started crying. He hadn't expected that. Ayanna was tough, always had been, took after her mother that way. But she put her face in her hands and cried like she was 5 years old again. "I've been so worried about you," she said through tears. "Working yourself to death in that building. Coming home exhausted every day. I kept thinking about how to help, how to convince you to slow down, but I knew you'd never take money from me even though I wanted to give it to you. You have your own family to take care of," Josiah said. "You're my family," Ayanna said. "You and Mom sacrificed everything for me, and now you're being taken care of the way you took care of everyone else. That's not luck, Dad. That's what you deserve." They had dinner together that night. Leftover chicken and rice that Ayanna heated up. It tasted better than it should have. Everything felt lighter somehow, like he'd been carrying weight for so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. The next few days were strange. He woke up at 4 in the morning the way he always did, his body clock programmed after decades of night shifts. But he didn't have to get dressed. Didn't have to drive to Henderson Financial Tower. Didn't have to clock in and grab his cleaning cart and spend 8 hours making other people's spaces clean while his own life stayed messy. He went back to bed, slept until 9. When he woke up the second time, the sun was fully up and the house was quiet in a way it never had been before. The first payment hit his account 3 days later, just like Matthew said it would. Josiah checked his bank balance on his phone and stared at the number for 5 full minutes. $12,000. Just sitting there. The first of many. He paid off his mortgage that afternoon. $40,000, the last of what he owed on a house he'd been paying for since 1995. The bank representative seemed confused by the sudden payment, asked him multiple times if he was sure, if he understood this couldn't be undone. "I'm sure," Josiah said. He paid off his car, fixed the roof, hired someone to paint the house, bought a new refrigerator because the old one had been dying slowly for 2 years. None of it made a dent in the money. There was always more. He couldn't get used to that part. Ayanna wanted him to buy a new car, something nice, something that wouldn't break down on the highway. He looked at a few dealerships, walked around lots full of vehicles with price tags that used to seem impossible. He could afford any of them now. All of them if he wanted. He bought a used Honda. Something reliable, but not flashy. The salesman looked disappointed. Dinner with the 4 of them happened the next Tuesday. Josiah cooked at home, like he'd promised. Made fried chicken the way Kendra used to make it, with macaroni and cheese and collard greens and cornbread. Simple food, but good. The kind of food that said you were loved. They showed up at 6, all of them dressed more casually than they'd been at the tower. Matthew in jeans and a polo. Malaya in a sundress. Tyrese in khakis and a button-down. Zariah in leggings and a sweater. They looked more like themselves somehow. Less like the polished professionals and more like the kids he remembered. "Something smells amazing," Zariah said when he opened the door. They ate at the dining room table, the one Kendra had picked out at a yard sale 20 years ago. Josiah had refinished it himself, sanded down the scratches and restained the wood. It wasn't fancy, but it was solid. The conversation was easier than he expected. They asked about his life, about Ayanna, about Kendra. He asked about theirs. Matthew was married with 2 kids, lived in a big house in the suburbs, coached his son's soccer team. Malaya was single, married to her work, she said, but she didn't sound unhappy about it. Tyrese had twins, both girls, both obsessed with dinosaurs. Zariah was engaged, planning a wedding for next summer. "Do you ever think about Lincoln?" Josiah asked. "About those days?" "All the time," Malaya said. "More than I probably should. It shaped everything. Where I went, what I did, who I became." "I got into law because of you," Matthew said. "I watched how the system treated kids like us. How we were invisible until we were problems. I wanted to change that. Now I fund scholarships for kids from situations like we had. Try to give them chances we almost didn't get. I went into medicine for similar reasons, Tyrese added. Too many people in my neighborhood died from things that should have been treatable. I wanted to be the doctor who didn't look away. And you? Josiah asked Zariah. Technology seems different from the others. She smiled. It's not really. I started my company because I wanted to create jobs in neighborhoods like the one we grew up in. Places where people usually don't get opportunities. We hire locally, train people, pay them well. It's about giving people the same chance you gave us. I just let you stay in a cafeteria, Josiah said. You saw us, Malaya said. That's not small. That's everything. They stayed until late, until the food was gone and the dishes were washed and the conversation had covered everything from politics to movies to what it was like growing up in a city that was changing too fast. When they finally left, Josiah stood in his doorway and watched them walk to their cars. Expensive cars now, but they still moved like kids who'd learned to be invisible, who'd learned not to take up too much space. Matthew turned back before getting in his car. Same time next month? I'd like that, Josiah said. It became a routine. The first Tuesday of every month, dinner at his house. Sometimes they brought their families. Matthew's kids called him Mr. Josiah and asked him questions about everything. Tyrese's daughters showed him pictures of dinosaurs and asked if he knew which one was the biggest. Zariah's fiancé, a quiet white man named Dylan Lewis, fit into the group easier than Josiah expected. The months passed. Josiah fixed up the house properly, not just the urgent things but the nice things too. New windows, updated bathroom, a deck in the backyard where he could sit in the morning with his coffee. He traveled some, took Ayana and her family to Disney World like he'd always wanted to when she was small but couldn't afford. Visited places he'd only seen on TV. But mostly he just lived. Woke up when he wanted. Read books he'd been meaning to get to for years. Volunteered at the community center, teaching kids how to fix things, how to make something broken work again. He didn't tell them about the money. Didn't tell anyone except Ayana and the four of them. It wasn't anyone else's business. A year after that day in the lobby, Christopher from Henderson Financial Tower showed up at his door. Josiah opened it and found his former supervisor standing on the porch, looking uncomfortable. Can I help you? Josiah asked. Christopher shifted his weight. I wanted to apologize. For how I treated you. For how I treated you the whole time you worked there, really. I was out of line that day in the lobby. And I was out of line for years before that. Josiah waited. Those people, your friends, they made it very clear how important you were. How much you'd done for them. And I realized I never saw that. Never saw you. You were just the cleaning guy to me. And that was wrong. Okay, Josiah said. I got fired, Christopher continued. 3 months after you left. The building ownership changed some things, had new management come in. They wanted people who valued all employees, not just the ones in suits. My replacement is half my age and treats the cleaning staff like human beings. It's a novel concept. I'm sorry you lost your job, Josiah said. He meant it. I'm not, Christopher said. I needed to lose it. I was becoming someone I didn't like. This gave me a chance to reset. I'm working security now, different building. The pay's not great, but I show up differently. Treat people differently. He paused. Anyway, I just wanted to say I'm sorry, and that I'm glad things worked out for you. Thank you, Josiah said. Christopher nodded and turned to leave, then stopped. Can I ask you something? Did you know? That day in the cafeteria at Lincoln, did you know those kids would end up so successful? Josiah thought about it. No, I didn't know anything except that they were hungry and scared. I didn't help them because I thought they'd pay me back someday. I helped them because it was the right thing to do. That's what makes it matter, Christopher said. That you didn't do it for credit. After Christopher left, Josiah sat on his new deck and thought about credit, about recognition, about the decades he'd spent being invisible to people like Christopher, like Amanda, like the thousands of employees who'd walked past him in hallways and never bothered to learn his name. He'd been angry about it sometimes, in the quiet moments when he was too tired to pretend it didn't hurt. But that anger felt distant now. It had been replaced by something else. Not quite pride, but close to it. Satisfaction, maybe. The knowledge that what he'd done mattered even when no one was watching. Especially because no one was watching. The doorbell rang again. He expected Christopher coming back for something, but it was Malaya standing there with a large envelope. Sorry to drop by unannounced, she said. But I wanted to give you this in person. Inside the envelope were photos. New ones. Professional ones. The four of them at their jobs, in their homes, with their families. and at the bottom, one of all of them together at his dining room table from last month's dinner. They looked happy. They looked like people who'd made it. "We had these made for you," Malaya said. "We wanted you to see what you made possible. Not just for us, but for our families. For our kids. Matthew's son wants to be a lawyer like his dad. Tyrese's daughters already talk about being doctors. Zariah's building a legacy that's going to outlive all of us. And I'm using everything I learned to help other people fight for what they deserve." "You did all that," Josiah said. "Not me. We did it because you showed us it was possible," Malaya said. "You showed us that someone could see value in kids who looked like us, who came from places like we came from. That's not nothing. That's everything." She left after a few more minutes. Josiah spread the photos out on his dining room table and looked at them until the sun went down. At some point Ayana called, wanted to know if he was eating properly, if he was taking his blood pressure medication. He assured her he was fine. Better than fine. That night he dreamed about Lincoln Elementary. Not the way it had been, but the way he remembered it feeling. The long dark hallways. The classrooms that smelled like chalk and old paper. The cafeteria where he'd sit with his dinner, eating quickly before starting his rounds. And the 4 kids at the table, doing homework or pretending to, stealing glances at him to make sure he was still there. In the dream, they never grew up. They stayed kids forever, safe in that warm cafeteria, while the world outside got colder and darker. He kept bringing them food, kept letting them stay, kept being the one person who didn't look away. He woke up at dawn with tears on his face and didn't know why. The 2nd year passed, then the 3rd. The monthly dinners continued. The trust payments kept coming. Josiah's life settled into something he'd never had before, peace. Not excitement, not adventure, just peace. The ability to wake up without dread. To make choices based on what he wanted instead of what he could afford. To help his daughter when she needed it without depleting his savings. He started a small scholarship fund of his own. Nothing as big as what Matthew did, but something. $5,000 a year to a student at Lincoln's replacement school, the one they'd built on the same lot after the demolition. The scholarship went to a kid who stayed after hours, who looked hungry, who seemed invisible. The school counselors helped him identify the recipients. He never met them. Didn't want credit. Just wanted to pass it forward. On the 4th anniversary of that day in the lobby, the 4 of them surprised him with a party. They'd rented out a small restaurant, invited Ayana and her family, and gathered everyone together. There was a cake, embarrassingly fancy. Champagne, though Josiah didn't drink much. And speeches. Matthew went first. 4 years ago today, we walked into a building and changed a man's life. But the truth is, he changed ours decades before that. Everything we have, everything we've built, exists because Josiah Green looked at 4 scared kids and decided they mattered. That's not a debt we can ever fully repay, but we're going to spend the rest of our lives trying. Malaya went next. When I was 8 years old, I thought I was going to die before I turned 18. That's not dramatic, that's just statistics. Kids in my situation didn't make it out. But I did. We all did. And the reason is standing right here. Because he showed up. Because he cared. Because he didn't need credit or recognition or anything except the knowledge that he'd done the right thing. Tyrese spoke about the night his grandmother died, how Josiah had let him sleep in the nurse's office because he had nowhere else to go. How Josiah had called his teacher the next morning, made sure someone knew he needed help without making it a big production. "You saved my life that night," Tyrese said. "Literally. I had nowhere to go, and I was 8 years old. You could have called the authorities, let them put me in the system. Instead, you kept me safe until my aunt could come get me. I never forgot that." Zariah went last. She didn't talk about specifics, just said that Josiah had given her hope during a time when hope felt impossible. That he'd shown her adults could be trusted, even though her life had taught her the opposite. "You changed the trajectory of 4 lives," she said. "Which means you changed the trajectory of our children's lives and their children's lives. That ripples out forever. That matters forever." Josiah didn't know what to say when it was his turn to speak. He looked at the 4 of them, at their families, at his daughter crying happy tears in the corner. He looked at the cake and the champagne and the restaurant full of people who were here because of something he'd done without thinking. "I wasn't trying to change anyone's life," he finally said. "I was just trying to make sure some kids had a warm place to sit and something to eat. The fact that you took that and built empires out of it, that's all you. I can't take credit for your hard work and your talent and your determination. You gave us the foundation," Matthew said. Everything else we built on top of that. Then I'm glad the foundation held, Josiah said. The party went late. There was food and music and laughter. Tyrese's daughters taught him a dance they'd learned at school. Matthew's son asked him about building things, showed him a birdhouse he'd made in Scouts. Zariah's fiancée told him about the wedding, asked if he'd come. Ayanna pulled him aside at one point and just hugged him without saying anything. When everyone finally left, Josiah sat in the empty restaurant for a few minutes. The staff was cleaning up around him, putting chairs back, wiping down tables. He thought about thanking them, about making sure they knew their work mattered. But they looked tired, and he didn't want to hold them up with a speech about dignity and labor. He left a large tip instead. $500 split between the servers and the kitchen staff. Sometimes you showed appreciation with words, and sometimes you showed it with action. Both mattered. The drive home was quiet. The streets were mostly empty at this hour. He passed Henderson Financial Tower and barely glanced at it. That part of his life felt like it belonged to someone else now. Some other Josiah who'd lived smaller and quieter and more afraid. At home, he sat in his living room with a cup of tea and looked at the photos on his walls. Kendra on their wedding day. Ayanna at various ages, losing teeth and graduating and getting married herself. The 4 kids from Lincoln, both the old Polaroids and the new professional shots. His life in pictures. Kendra would have loved this. She'd always believed in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. Always said he had a good heart, that it would come back to him someday. He'd thought she meant in heaven or in karma, or in some vague future that never really came. Turned out she'd meant literally. Turned out kindness did come back, just took 22 years. He missed her. The money didn't change that. The recognition didn't change that. But sitting in his house that he owned outright, thinking about the scholarship fund and the monthly dinners and the 4 lives he'd touched without meaning to, he thought maybe she was right. Maybe it had come back to him. Maybe he'd been paid in full. The next Tuesday they had dinner again. Just the regular monthly meal, no party, no speeches. Josiah made pot roast and potatoes. They talked about work and politics and whether Tyrese's daughters would ever stop asking for a dog. It was normal. It was perfect. Toward the end of the night, after the dishes were done and the coffee was poured, Matthew brought up something new. "We've been talking," he said, gesturing to the other 3. "And we want to do something else. Something bigger." Josiah felt a familiar nervousness. "I don't need anything else." "Not for you," Malaya said. "For kids like we were. We want to start a foundation. A real one, with structure and funding and programs. We want to identify kids who are falling through the cracks and make sure they get what they need. Food, shelter, tutoring, mentorship. All of it." "That sounds good," Josiah said carefully. "We want to name it after you," Zariah said. "No," Josiah said immediately. "Yes," all 4 of them said together. "The Green Foundation," Tyrese said. "It has a nice ring to it. And it's honest. It's naming the thing after the person who inspired it." "I didn't inspire anything," Josiah protested. "I fed some kids." "You saved us," Matthew said. "And now we want to save others the same way. But we want to do it in your name. We want people to know that this came from you, from your example." "I don't want fame," Josiah said. "I never wanted that." "It's not about fame," Malaya said. "It's about legacy. It's about making sure that what you did doesn't get forgotten, that it inspires other people to do the same." Josiah looked at each of them, at the success they'd built, at the people they'd become, at the fact that they were here, in his house, asking his permission to honor him in a way he'd never imagined. "Okay," he finally said, "but only if you promise me something." "Anything," Zariah said. "Don't make it about me. Make it about the kids. Make it about the work. I don't need my name on buildings or in articles. I just need to know that someone else out there is getting the help they need." "Deal," Matthew said. The Green Foundation launched 6 months later. Josiah attended the opening event, but refused to speak. He stood in the back and watched as the 4 of them gave presentations about their vision, about the kids they were going to help, about the future they were building. His name was on the banner behind them, but it felt abstract, like it belonged to someone else. Afterward, a reporter tried to interview him. He declined politely. This wasn't his story to tell. It was theirs. The foundation grew quickly. Within a year, they were operating in 6 cities, helping hundreds of kids. They hired social workers and counselors and mentors. They opened after-school centers where kids could go to be safe and fed and seen. They partnered with schools to identify students who needed help before they fell too far through the cracks. Josiah visited some of the centers. Saw kids sitting at tables doing homework, eating snacks, laughing with adults who cared. It looked familiar. It looked like Lincoln Elementary, but better, more organized, more sustainable. He talked to a few of the kids, asked them about school and their lives. Most of them were shy, didn't know what to make of an old man asking questions. That was fine. He didn't need them to know who he was. He just needed them to be okay. One kid, a girl around 10 with braids and suspicious eyes, asked him why he was there. "Just visiting," he said. "Seeing how things are going." "Are you someone important?" she asked. "No," Josiah said. "Just someone who cares." She seemed to accept that. Went back to her homework. Josiah watched her for a minute, this small person trying to survive in a world that didn't make it easy. He wondered what she'd become. Wondered if she'd even remember this place in 20 years. Wondered if it mattered. It mattered. He knew that now. Even if she never remembered, even if she never knew his name or his story, or what he'd done for 4 other kids a lifetime ago. It mattered because she was here and she was safe and she was eating and someone was paying attention. That night, he called Ayanna. "I'm proud of what we built," he told her. "Your mother and me. The life we made. You. I'm proud of you too, Dad," she said. "You're a good man. You've always been a good man." "I'm just a janitor," he said. "You were never just anything," Ayanna said. He thought about that after they hung up. About the word just. Just a janitor. Just a cleaning guy. Just someone who mopped floors and emptied trash and existed in the background of other people's important lives. He'd thought of himself that way for so long it had become truth. But maybe it had never been true. Maybe he'd been someone who saw people others didn't see. Who helped when helping wasn't required. Who showed up every day and did the right thing even when no one was watching. Maybe that was never just anything. Maybe that had always been everything. 5 years after that day in the lobby, Josiah woke up and realized he was 70 years old. It didn't feel possible. 70 felt like a number that belonged to old people, and he still felt young in his head even if his body disagreed. Ayanna threw him a party. The 4 of them came, of course, with their families. The house was full of noise and laughter and cake. Matthew pulled him aside at one point. "Can I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone?" "Sure," Josiah said. "That night at Lincoln, the night you let me sleep in the nurse's office when my grandmother died, I had a knife in my backpack. I was planning to use it. Not on anyone else. On myself." Josiah went very still. "I was 8 years old and I wanted to die," Matthew continued. His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. "I couldn't see a way out. Couldn't see a future. And then you showed up. You didn't ask questions. You just let me stay. Made sure I was safe. Called the right people the next morning. And I remember thinking, if this person cares enough to help, maybe things aren't as hopeless as they feel." "I didn't know," Josiah said quietly. "You weren't supposed to know. That's the point. You saved my life without even knowing it was in danger. You just did the right thing because that's who you are." "Are you okay now?" Josiah asked. "I'm better than okay," Matthew said. "I have a family, a career, a life I never thought I'd live to see. And it exists because you were there when I needed someone, even though you didn't know how badly I needed it." They stood there in silence for a while. Around them, the party continued. Kids ran through the house. Adults laughed and ate cake. Life happened, loud and messy and beautiful. "Thank you for telling me," Josiah finally said. "Thank you for being there," Matthew said back. The party wound down eventually. People left in waves, tired and happy. Ayanna stayed to help clean up, the way she always did. They worked in comfortable silence, putting away food and washing dishes. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked suddenly. "Working all those years for nothing, when you could have had more?" Josiah thought about it. "I didn't work for nothing. I worked for us. For you and your mother. For a life that was small but ours. I don't regret that. But if you'd known," Ayanna pressed, "if you'd known that helping those kids would lead to this, would you have done anything differently?" "No," Josiah said. "Because I didn't help them for this. I helped them because they needed help. If I'd done it expecting something back, it wouldn't have meant the same thing." "You're a better person than most people," Ayanna said. "I'm just a person who tried," Josiah said. "That's all any of us can do." The years continued. Josiah got older. His knees hurt more. His back ached. He needed reading glasses, and then stronger reading glasses. The house stayed clean, but it was harder to maintain. He thought about downsizing, about moving somewhere smaller, but he couldn't bring himself to leave the place where Kendra had lived, where they'd raised Ayanna, where he'd hosted all those dinners with the 4 of them. The monthly dinners became less frequent as everyone got busier. Every other month, then quarterly. But they never stopped completely. They always came back, always made time. Their kids got older. Matthew's son went to college. Tyrese's daughters learned to drive. Zariah had her wedding, and it was beautiful, and Josiah cried during the ceremony, even though he'd promised himself he wouldn't. The foundation kept growing. It was in 15 cities now, helping thousands of kids. They'd started a scholarship program that sent dozens of students to college every year. They'd built partnerships with companies to provide internships and job training. They'd created something that would outlive all of them. And through it all, Josiah just lived. He wasn't the face of the foundation, wasn't a public figure, wasn't anyone important by most people's standards. He was just an old man who'd once been a janitor, who'd once fed some hungry kids, who'd never expected anything in return. On a Tuesday in late fall, 9 years after that day in the lobby, Josiah got a call from a number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Is this Josiah Green?" a young woman's voice asked. "Yes," he said cautiously. "My name is Kiara Hayes. I'm Malaya's daughter. I know you knew my mom when she was a kid." "I did," Josiah said. His heart was beating faster. "Is everything okay? Is your mother?" "She's fine," Kiara said quickly. "I'm calling because I'm doing a project for school. We're supposed to interview someone who made a difference in our family's life. And Mom said there's no one more important to interview than you." Josiah sat down. "Your mother made her own success. She told me you'd say that," Kiara said. "But that's not what she tells me. She tells me that you're the reason she's alive, that you're the reason I exist. And I wanted to thank you for that, for making sure my mom survived long enough to become my mom." Josiah couldn't speak for a moment. When he finally found his voice, it came out rough. "You're welcome. But your mother is the strongest person I know. She survived because of who she is, not because of me." "She says you taught her how to survive," Kiara said. "By showing her that people could be kind without wanting something back. That help didn't always come with strings." They talked for an hour. Kiara asked him about Lincoln, about those nights in the cafeteria, about what he remembered. He told her what he could, though the memories were fuzzier now, worn smooth by time. Mostly he remembered feeling helpless, wishing he could do more, knowing that sandwiches in a warm room weren't enough but hoping they were something. "It was enough," Kiara said when he told her that. "It was everything." After they hung up, Josiah sat in his living room and cried. Not sad tears. Something else. Relief, maybe. Or gratitude. Or just the overwhelming weight of knowing that what he'd done mattered, that it rippled out in ways he couldn't have imagined, that there was a girl named Kiara who existed because he'd shared his lunch 25 years ago. The next monthly dinner, he asked Malaya about the call. She smiled, embarrassed. "I told her she didn't have to bother you." "She didn't bother me," Josiah said. "It was good to talk to her. She seems like a smart kid. She wants to be a social worker," Malaya said. "Wants to help kids like I was." The cycle continues. "That's good," Josiah said. "That's really good." Around the table, the others were talking about their own children's futures. Matthew's son was thinking about law school. Tyrese's daughters were both in high school now, talking about pre-med programs. Zariah and Dylan had adopted a little boy from foster care, were navigating the challenges of parenting a child with trauma. "He reminds me of us," Zariah said quietly. "The way he looks at adults, like he's waiting for the catch. Like he doesn't believe anyone could just care without wanting something." "How are you handling it?" Josiah asked. "The way you handled us," she said. "Show up every day. Be consistent. Prove through action that the world isn't always cruel." "Is it working?" "Slowly," Dylan said. "But yeah, he's starting to trust us. Starting to believe that this is permanent." "That's all you can do," Josiah said. "Show up. Be there. Let them see that you mean it." "That's what you did," Tyrese said. "Every single night. You were there. We could count on you. That's not a small thing." "It felt small at the time," Josiah said. "The most important things usually do," Matthew said. They finished dinner and lingered over coffee. The conversation drifted to other topics, lighter things, but Josiah kept thinking about Zariah's adopted son. About kids everywhere who were waiting to see if adults could be trusted. About how many of them never found someone to prove it. The foundation was helping, but it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. There would always be more kids than resources, more need than supply. But that didn't mean you stopped trying. That didn't mean you gave up. You just did what you could, when you could, for whoever was in front of you. That night, Alone in his house, Josiah thought about legacy. About what he'd leave behind when he was gone. He didn't have much in terms of material wealth, even with the trust. He lived simply. Didn't need much. The house would go to Ayanna. The rest of the money would go to her and to the foundation. But his real legacy wasn't money or buildings or foundations. It was the 4 people who came to dinner every month. It was their children and their children's children. It was a girl named Kiera who wanted to be a social worker, and a little boy learning to trust again, and all the other ripples spreading out in directions he'd never see. He'd been invisible for most of his life. Just a janitor. Just a cleaning guy. Just someone people looked past on their way to somewhere more important. And somehow, in being invisible, he'd made an impact that was anything but. The irony wasn't lost on him. 10 years after that day in the lobby, Josiah woke up feeling different. Not sick exactly, but off. He made it through breakfast, but by mid-morning he knew something was wrong. He called Ayanna. She took him to the hospital. The doctors ran tests and used words he didn't fully understand, and eventually told him what he'd already known. His heart was giving out. Too many years of stress and hard work and genetics that didn't favor longevity. They wanted to keep him for observation. He refused. Made them send him home with pills and instructions and warnings about taking it easy. He was 75 years old, and he'd been taking it easy for a decade. If his heart was going to fail, it could fail in his own house. Ayanna wanted to stay with him. He told her to go home to her family, that he'd be fine. She didn't believe him, but she went anyway, made him promise to call if anything changed. He called Matthew instead. I need you to get everyone together. Tonight if possible. One more dinner. Matthew heard something in his voice. Are you okay? I'm fine. I just want to see everyone. They came. All 4 of them with their families. Ayanna and her husband and their kids. The house was full again one last time. Josiah made it through dinner, though he didn't eat much. He let the conversation flow around him, just listened to the voices, the laughter, the sound of life happening. After the meal, after the kids had run off to play and the adults were lingering over coffee, Josiah stood up. His legs were shaky, but he managed. I want to say something, he said. The room went quiet. I don't have long, he said simply. The doctors gave me maybe 6 months. Could be less. Could be a little more if I'm lucky. But I wanted you all here because I wanted to say thank you. No, Malaya said. Her voice was sharp. You don't get to thank us. We're the ones who. Let me finish, Josiah said gently. You gave me something I never expected. You gave me proof that what I did mattered. Most people go their whole lives without knowing if they made a difference. But I know. I got to see it. I got to watch you grow and succeed and build families and help other people. That's not a small gift. That's everything. You're not dying, Zoraya said. She was crying. You can't. Everyone dies, Josiah said. I got 75 good years, and the last 10 were better than I ever imagined. I got to see my daughter thriving. I got to be part of your lives. I got to help start something that's going to outlive all of us. That's not tragedy. That's winning. We're not ready, Tyrese said. No one ever is, Josiah said. But you don't need me anymore. You never really did. You just needed someone to give you a chance, and you took that chance and ran with it. Everything else was you. Matthew was crying now too, not even trying to hide it. What do we do? You keep going, Josiah said. You keep helping kids. You keep showing up. You keep proving that people can be good. That's all. That's enough. He sat back down. His chest hurt. Someone, Ayanna probably, called 911. The paramedics came and made a fuss and loaded him into an ambulance despite his protests. The last thing he saw before they closed the doors was his house full of people, all of them crying, all of them there because of something he'd done 27 years ago in a cafeteria that didn't exist anymore. He didn't die that night, or the next. The 6 months the doctors gave him stretched into 8, then 10. He got weaker, but he held on, stubborn the way old men get stubborn. The dinners continued, now at his bedside. They brought food and their families and sat with him for hours, talking or not talking, just being there. Kiera came to visit, Malaya's daughter. She was 17 now, about to graduate high school. She sat by his bed and told him about her college plans, about the social work program she'd gotten into, about the kids she wanted to help. You're going to be good at it, Josiah told her. You come from someone who understands. I'm going to name my first program after you, she said. The Josiah Green Initiative. Mom said she'd help me set it up. You don't have to do that, he said. I want to, she said. I exist because of you. My future exists because of you. That deserves recognition. Other people came too, people he barely remembered. Former co-workers from Henderson Financial Tower. People from the community center where he'd volunteered. Recipients of his small scholarship fund, now graduated and working and paying it forward in their own ways. His room was full of flowers and cards and evidence that he'd touched more lives than he'd known. "I was just trying to help," he told Ayanna one afternoon. She was reading to him something about birds. He couldn't follow the words anymore, but he liked the sound of her voice. "You did more than help," she said. "You changed the world. One person at a time, but you changed it." "The world's still broken," he said. "Less broken than it would have been," she said. "That counts." He thought about that, about broken things and the small repairs people make, about how you can't fix everything but you can fix something, and maybe if enough people fix something, the whole thing holds together a little longer. On a Tuesday morning in early spring, almost exactly 11 years after 4 people in expensive suits had walked into Henderson Financial Tower and asked for him by name, Josiah Green died quietly in his sleep. Ayanna was there. So was Malaya, who'd been keeping vigil. They said he looked peaceful, like someone who'd lived well and knew it. The funeral was on a Thursday. Hundreds of people came. The 4 of them gave eulogies, though they all broke down partway through. Ayanna spoke about her father, about his kindness and his strength and his quiet dignity. Kids from the Foundation's programs came, kids who'd never met him but knew his name, who understood that their safe place existed because of choices he'd made decades ago. They buried him next to Kendra in a cemetery on the east side of the city. The headstone was simple. His name, his dates, and one line: he showed up. At the reception afterward, Matthew stood up to make an announcement. Josiah didn't want any monuments or buildings named after him. But we're doing it anyway. The Green Foundation is expanding. We're opening a new center in every city we operate in, and every single one of them will bear his name. The Josiah Green Center for Youth Services. Because that's what he did. He served. He helped. He showed up. He'd hate this, Zariah said, but she was smiling through tears. He'd hate it, Malaya agreed. And that's exactly why we're doing it. Because someone needs to remember. Someone needs to know that an invisible man changed the world. Years later, there would be 20 Josiah Green centers across the country. Thousands of kids would pass through their doors, getting help and hope and the knowledge that someone cared. Most of them would never know who Josiah Green was. They'd just know that the center was safe, that people there would feed them and protect them and see them when the rest of the world looked away. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. Maybe that was exactly what Josiah would have wanted. In a cafeteria in one of those centers, a teenage girl sat doing homework long after her friends had gone home. She was hungry but trying to hide it. She was scared but trying to be brave. A counselor approached, set down a sandwich and some chips. "You doing okay?" the counselor asked. "I'm fine," the girl said automatically. "You can stay as long as you need to," the counselor said. "This is a safe place. You're safe here." The girl nodded, not quite believing it. But she ate the sandwich. And she came back the next day. And the day after that. And slowly, carefully, she started to believe that maybe someone cared. That maybe she wasn't invisible. That maybe she mattered. In the center's main hallway, there was a plaque with a photo of an old black man in a janitor's uniform. Most people walked past it without looking. But if they had, they would have seen a face that was ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. They would have seen someone who'd been invisible his whole life, but whose legacy was written in the lives of everyone who passed through those doors. They would have seen Josiah Green. Just a janitor. Just a person who helped. Just someone who showed up. Just everything.